Here.
Gerhart. James Wilson.
Here.
Priscilla's here. Amelia Barrasso.
Here.
And Malika Kirsten. Here.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. The next item is prayer and pledge.
Turn it over to tradition and balance.
Madam President Presses, Mr. Toscano, and the East Central School Board. We are honored to be here today representing Tradition Elementary and Ballard Middle School.
Tonight we have brought some of our exceptional Titans and Vipers from the Football Friday program with us. We'll be saying the prayer, the pledge, and also highlighting the Football Friday program that began this year with Tradition and Valor. Leading us in our prayer tonight will be Jagger Sanchez.
Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us here together today. We are grateful for our school board leaders, teachers, and employees. They're all waiting for our students. Please give us wisdom and kindness in the decisions are made. Help us work together with respect and care for one another. Bless our schools and keep them safe, strong, and full of hope. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. I would like to now introduce one of Tradition's staff members, Ryan Beckett, who started Football Friday this year at Tradition in partnership with Ballard Middle School. I would also like to introduce 4 students who participate in the program. They are Carter, Jackson, Noel, and Jagger. They will be sharing some of the highlights of the program with all of you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kopeck, and good evening, Madam President, Mr. Toscano, and school board members. At Tradition, we're working to engage, encourage, and equip lifelong learners, not just in the classroom, but in how our students show up every day. I just want to briefly share something we've been doing called Football Friday. Football Friday started as a way to support some of our students who need a little more structure and motivation when it comes to making positive choices throughout the week. As a former student athlete here at East Central and later in college, I've seen how much accountability, teamwork, and having a goal can impact someone, not just in sports, but in life. That played a big role in how this program was built. We use a football theme where students earn yards each day by being safe, respectful, and responsible throughout the week. Throughout the week, they track their yards and work towards hitting 100 by Friday. What's been really cool to see is not just the behavior improving, but students starting to hold themselves accountable, encourage each other, and take pride in what they're doing. Football Friday gives these students something consistent to work toward and a chance to experience success and celebrate those successes. By Friday, if they hit their goals, we celebrate them. Just recognizing the effort and growth they put in throughout the week. It's become something that they really look forward to, and at this point, take very, very seriously. We've also had some of our boys from Ballard Middle School come out to help set up and play with our students. They help teach the games, model positive behavior, and just make it fun. So it becomes more than a reward, it becomes something our students genuinely connect to. I also want to recognize Ms. Hernandez and Mrs. Riley for their support for Football Friday. They've helped keep things running and have been a big part of making it work from week to week. We'd like to showcase a couple of those students tonight who have shown that growth and commitment, as well as some of our middle school leaders.
Beckett for sharing the amazing things you are doing, and thank the parents of these students. If you are the parent for someone who was recognized tonight, could you please stand and be recognized yourself? Thank you again, and thank you to our school board for being here this evening. We appreciate all that you do, and please enjoy this token of thanks we have provided for you in appreciation of your service and commitment to our school district.
I want to say thank you, you guys down there. That's amazing speeches that you gave. And y'all spoke so nicely and so grown up. And I just want to say what a wonderful program I think that is. So thank you very much for having that. I think it's a great idea. Next, we have one more, couple more awards and recognitions if y'all would hang around for a minute. And I will leave that to Mr. Stein.
Yeah, so we've got an employee recognition. Employee might be familiar to some of you. And then we've got a really proud program where we're going to have a new officer. Recognize so I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Moore.
So we have this month's awarded recognition. And it goes to Ryan Beckett.
Thank you.
Teacher Ryan Beckett exemplifies the easy way through the meaningful relationships he builds with both students and staff. He creates a safe and supportive environment where each student feels seen, valued, and capable of growth, regardless of their background or circumstances. Mr. Beckett is intentional in his work. He takes the time to understand each student's strengths, interests, and needs, allowing him to connect in a way that is both authentic and impactful. Through those connections, he helps guide students toward positive choices, personal growth, and long-term success. One example of his impact is the initiative he introduced, Football Friday. Students earn points throughout the week for positive behavior, which earns them the opportunity to participate in a football game. It has become a powerful motivator and something students genuinely look forward to. What makes it even more meaningful is that Mr. Beckett joins them on the field, strengthening relationships, reinforcing teamwork, and creating moments that leave a lasting impression. His colleagues describe him as all-in and someone who consistently does what's best for students. That speaks volumes about his character, integrity, and commitment to those he serves. Ryan Beckett does more than support students. He invests in them, and because of that, he's not only shaping better outcomes, he's helping shape better futures.
Friends and family of Ryan Beckett, please stand to be recognized. We'll turn it over to Chief.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Toscano, board members. Very excited and honored to swear in one of our new officers to our family here at the Central ISD School and Police Department. And we're gonna do the official oath of office swearing in and the traditional police picking of the badge, which is common, traditional, what they officer presidents and it is major accomplishment nowadays, especially. So we have Miss Emily Henson, can you please stand up? And face me. I just need you to repeat after me, raise your right hand, okay? I, Emily Henson, do swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of peace officer for the East Central Independent School District Police Department, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America and the state of Texas, so help me God. Logan Martinez, who is? Logan, nice to meet you. Just don't stand.
And be a long hard work man, be all right.
But that was the first,
That should have been in there.
that was the first question on the application.
Okay, a long time.
How was What, thank you to get a few. Are we okay with this? Okay, you know what, you stand here, I'm gonna stand here.
Congratulations.
I'm trying to take.
Okay, so, let's take about a 5-minute recess, and we'll convene at 6:49, so that those of you that need to get home can go on, and we'll reconvene at 6:49. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We're going to call the meeting back to order, and the next item on the agenda is, trustee reports. I don't have anything at this time.
Yes, I attended the Golden Gala this year again. It was quite a fun, interesting little bit that was going on there. But needless to say, I won a prize that I'll be taking my wife to somewhere out in the hill country somewhere. So just no phones, no nothing. Leave us alone kind of moment. So that was good. And then this past weekend, I was attended the Love Your School event at Harmony. Thank you to Ms. McReynolds, Ms. Flores, Mr. Morales, Ms. High. Baseball team was there as well helping out, and the girls soccer team was also represented by Haley High. And I'll tell you, a truckload of mulch is no joke. They put me in 2 of them. Half of what I did was enough, and I felt it the very next day. And I also got this cold that I'm getting over from all the dust. It did rain on us a little bit. But there's a plant that I got to start digging in the hard dirt closest to the main parking lot, and I called it the Santos plant because it took me quite a bit to get down and dig that thing up. So I'm going to be there watering. Don't pay me no attention to me. I put enough effort to that, so I'm going to take care of it. But more to come. Appreciate it.
Okay, I got out to softball games last week on Tuesday. Thank you softball, girls softball recognizing first responders and military night. Big turnout. Also, the girls played well. They swung the bat. 2 innings, 14-0. I decided to go over to see the baseball game that same night. Beautiful night. Nice night for baseball. Went over and watched them a little bit. They were up, I think, on Clemens when I left 5-6, or 6-5, excuse me. And then I think we leading up on. You know, it's really Miss Michaela. Okay, yeah, there's the first responders there. It was a great turnout. Mr. Carrasco was there, was recognized by the announcer there, that was at the game here. Okay. Now, okay, this is Sinclair's book club. They won the trophy this year. For Chris, they didn't win the trophy. Now, Sinclair not finally first place. So those are the sponsors, Mrs. Salazar over to the right, and that's the students, and those are other counselors. And Sinclair Clair won the book contest. Congratulations to them. Went over to St. Clair Saturday, love your schools, and there's a picture of volunteers. We had the softball, we had the cross country team there helping out. Those are some of the activities, the next two screens there. And then you move on and see what else we got here. Okay, if no one recognized this guy here, that's Victor Glover. He's one of the astronauts on that splashdown last week, and he's with one of our former East Central students. So he made history, and she got a chance to be in Houston, Texas. I want to recognize Victor Glover, one of the astronauts that went farthest in space. I think that's about it.
I had a couple of opportunities to get out. Went to the market days there at the high school. They had a gathering. It was really neat to see all vendors there, and then the kids, the students participating as well. My wife took me to work a little bit too, with the Booster Club. I didn't spend a long time there. I try not to do too much work. Also went to the gala and had a great time there to see a lot of familiar faces, the staff, and all the things, the great things that they do for our students, and all the money that was raised was really neat to be a part of and to get to see, to experience all that. Also had a chance to go to our Love Our School, went to Island Forest, and got there a little bit late, so I thought it was rained out. I didn't bother to look at my text messages, and Mr. Toscano had texted me and said it was still on. So I saw that in a panic at my grandson's baseball game. And I told my wife, I said, he had a double hitter. I said, I gotta go. Where? I said, I had a commitment. So I took off. I got there, and Miss Irving had it all done, taken care of. They had all the paint, all the pillars painted, and looked really neat. And then me with my bright idea opened my mouth and said, how about the sign out there? And sure enough, they started painting the sign. We did have a basketball team out there. Is it Coach Ray?
Yep.
Tall gentleman. So we didn't need a real tall ladder because he was able to reach like the tippy top of the sign. I had talked to Mr. Costano. He pulled up and I said, if we can't reach the top, you think we can get some help? I think he reached the top. No cares at all. So they just went all out. I just wanted to say thank you for all the hard work. I love that the community, some of the community members came out. It shows the love and the commitment for our schools and our district. Also want to give a shout out to the Heritage Middle School cafeteria workers. So my wife showed me some pictures and gave me some play-by-play. I didn't get to actually experience it, but she said that they were giving meals out, because they had a SNAR test, and they were giving meals out to the actual classrooms, and she came home pretty tired the other day. She was I kind of said, hey, you take it easy, we're not 18 anymore. But I want to give a shout out to all the staff that put in so many hours getting our kids ready and preparing them, from the cafeteria to the principal. Everyone has a part, and it's much appreciated. See, I think that's all I had. Softball games, yeah, I got a chance. Being coach, we're like the dynamic duos. We got it covered. Had a great time. This past Tuesday, they had already won the district championship, but they still played hard. They had this one young lady. Izzy, and she's a senior, and last home game, regular season, and she was playing. She normally plays shortstop. That's her home position. And she played catcher, pitcher. She started off pitching, and it was really sweet to see her pitch. She was definitely not throwing heat, but she struck out the first person she went up, the first batter she faced, and then she played catcher, first base, and played all those. She did well, and the ball was like looking for her because she had like 5 or 6 outs that she got to they pulled off that event, and it was a great opportunity, and then they got their banner for champion, district champion. So look forward to the playoffs. Sorry, I got long-winded.
No, thank you for that.
Okay, I had two opportunities to, enjoy our history. The academic achievement awards was, one of the highlights I thought that, I always love the academics at the, accident, what's so neat about it is so many kids got a chance to be honored and, appreciated by their teachers or mentors, and, it's just really, really neat to see them walk across the stage and, even like superintendent and the principal, as they took pictures and, you know, the things they do to recognize, their achievement, and so it was really cool to see that. And it was very, very well attended by parents there. And then it was the Lovely Schools thing. Let me just first say, my husband, signed up for Salado. I just want you to know he was not a shirker, but he had a flare up of gout in his foot, and so he couldn't go. So, I just said, well, okay, so sorry, it's just too bad. I'm going to Carter Valley, so, no sympathy with him. But he's still really interested in being a mentor. He's very, very interested in doing that, so he's really great. But at Pecan Valley, the pollinator garden was just awesome. I had a fifth grader that explained to me what a pollinator garden was, and, I think he's ready for Harvard. That was, whoa. And it was amazing, the nurseries that, I don't know how you guys did that, how many nurseries were there, some of the other ones, but the way that they taught the kids, and they were really engaged and listened, and then followed the instructions, and, did, did all of the planning, and of course, I stood back, because I'm scared of worms and bugs, and I supervised, but, but then finally I just had to get in there with them, it was so cool. And no, it did not rain, and we were glad that it, that we had the shade, and so we took a lot of pictures, and, I was going to stop by and, had some catch coffee and refreshments, and there were games, and there was just, I really appreciate that we did this at all of the schools. It's just too bad you couldn't be at every one of the schools at the same time, but then there's an opportunity to do it again and go to other schools. That was fantastic. Okay, I'm almost done.
No, thank you for sharing. Thank you all for sharing. The next item is the superintendent's reports, and 7.1 is board goals update. Shoshana?
Yeah, I'll turn it over to Mr. Holbert. We do have a hard copy in your miscellaneous packet, if you prefer to take notes and follow along that way.
Madam President, Mr. Scott, members of the board, thanks for the opportunity to give you a brief update on our data. We're in sync to the same format we've been using. I'm going to briefly talk about attendance, our behavior system and discipline, and then Warren will give us an update on the CC1 numbers, and Jill's going to close this out with our strategic data on our attendance data looks really similar to the last couple of times, which makes sense. It's cumulative over the course of the year. And so the further you get in the year, the less the changes will be cumulative attendance. So at this point, we're up 0.5%. You can see that most campuses have made gains. You can see some really big things like Legacy's up 1.3% year over year. Highlight a couple of the bright spots there. We have some of the events that we talked about last time. So in an attempt to have that strong push at the end to keep those things, campus has been very creative and trying to find opportunities to get excited about attendance. So Harmony's got some notes there about the Monkey Challenge, and they reported 450 kids at first attendance. So that's pretty impressive. Phoebe's got some notes there about their April Fools, and I didn't realize until I saw the notes on this one that them so much that they've actually collaborated with her on creating the system, the maps that we call it. And we, for every month, reported on those maps and how we were doing. And they liked it so much they've actually changed some of their processes and used with other districts using those maps. And so we're really excited about the process, and we're excited about the game. So, there you go. Move past that one. So so two sides. One, I want to call into account that we did gain 0.6% in 23-24, and then as the higher you get, the harder it is to make gain credit. Start running out of numbers. We gained another 7% this year in Tier 1. Our goal was to get everybody to 80, so get 80 overall and get 80 in every campus. And you can see on the chart we didn't quite meet that goal. So on one hand, I want to say, hey, we're super proud of what things have done. We know the stronger behavior systems, the lower the discipline, and we're seeing some record progress. I don't think we've ever had a secondary campus get close to 80 before. And you can see Legacy's over at 83, and then Valor, just giving them credit for it's hard coming in with no, like when you have a brand new school, you have to start from scratch. That's a heavy lift to go from nothing to 81. So we, and both East Central High School and Casper divisions as well. So we're seeing a lot of gains on Tier 1 systems. On Tier 2 systems, we made a 9% gain last year, another 9% this year. We're at 78%. So we were just a little shy of our goal. And then again, we were trying to get everybody up to 80%. And we saw some huge gains. We passed up 20-something percent over the last couple of years. Massive progress up and down the system. We're super proud of the work we're doing. Looking at our discipline incidents, again, it's a little bit like attendance as we get later in the year. You're not going to see a big changes in data because it's cumulative for the year. We are currently on track to meet our reduction target. And what I want you to see is, again, we talked about the very small numbers at elementary schools, but I want you to see at Sinclair. I'm hoping next month. They're at 14 right now. Last year they were at 15, and they needed to get to 13 to be on track for the goal. So I'm hoping that before the year closes out, Sinclair's going to get that final. Like if we can finish strong, they're gonna hit their goal too, but they haven't yet. And then coming up to Heritage, we've been watching as their 24 number was 99. They're at 102 right now, and we've been talking for a couple months, right? That number keeps coming down, and we're getting there. So with dedication, we're hoping to see that the heritage numbers would get under what it was last year in this update. So something we're excited for within track. There's our chart showing our behavior system and the strength there. On the left is last year kind of a rate. The big difference there I want you to see is the red line. We did get a spike in Central High School where it's come up, like we did see more incidents happen over the last few weeks, but it's not quite as high as the rate was last year. So we went up, and then typically what we see here on the next page is that serious incidents will decline. And so we're hoping next time we'll see that red line come down to the other result on the next update. Overall, seeing really impressive progress. Again, giving some shout outs to Legacy's Tier 1, Balance Tier 1, East Central High School Tier 2 getting over 80. Great job. Super proud of the teams and what they're doing. The hotspots, those games didn't get to 80 yet. Small hotspots, we're working on those. We have seen in spring, despite those big incidents, that's part of the contributing factor to those high school teams. And then, we're working on escape debate, trying to message around how we can get those numbers down. And then we noticed on Heritage and Sinclair that they're so close to the discipline incidents, and that they were on the lower side of the fidelity system. We are partnering with them, and super proud of the work we've done over the last week and a half with them. Both of them have exceeded what we've asked of them. So we just met again last night with Heritage. We've had some things we said, hey, we want you to do this, and then they did a little bit more than what we asked for. And so we've got some good work going on over there at Heritage. And then Sinclair, very similar. We've got multiple pictures of Mr. Harvey and his team pulling together, getting real strategic, and they had some great data already to share with us. super excited for the early impact, trying to get that strong closeout for those two campuses and to get them off to a great start to begin next week. I believe it's Lauren next to Cecil.
I have a quick question.
Oh, sure, sure.
If you could back up to the, down at the bottom where it says, teach hat referral for students with an incident. What is the, punishment for being caught vaping and, how many times, if it's a repeat person that continues to, what do we do? What are we doing on that?
I'm gonna say, maybe point of with John and Shane, but I believe that it's mandatory, right?
Yeah, it's a mandatory placement, so if it's the first offense, they do 10 days of ISS aligned to the law on the campus. If it's a habitual, they'll end up going to RTC, the Salinas unit, and so there they'll get the T-chat where it's basically recommended for the family to participate. And so we have an MOU signed through Sarah Pena, and we also have Ecumenical Center that is another MOU that's signed on campus. And we also refer to the Pecan Valley Resource Center to assist. So it's a wraparound effect, trying to assist. The challenge is they see relatives do it, they see mom and dad do it, and so that's the piece that it's not okay to do it in school. So that's something that we're really trying to push out, the Escape the Vape campaign year-round, not just during Gregory Week. And so, but it's we got a committee that's gonna be pushing that out year-round.
Thank you very much.
So, on that same, got a couple of questions, but on that same topic there, how many available, I'm gonna say seats, because I don't know how to refer to it, but, how many spaces, I guess maybe is a better, depiction of it, are there in the, you said, give me the acronym again, so RTC.
The alternative school, right?
Yes.
So, they have 20 at the high school and 10 to 10 at the middle schools, but it fluctuates, which is something that will basically, if there's some seats available, depending on the need, they'll send them over. So because it's connected to Wi-Fi, that's how their curriculum is. And so based on the bandwidth, because they have taken more students, and again, it's based on the situation, so at times we do have to use that facility temporarily to get students to like JJP, for example. So, but we work with the campus, Mr. Salinas will, to determine. So if they do have 10 and we do need to send other students, but it's also who can come back also, because some, we want to reward that, because again, it's about restoring the behavior to where they've done exactly what we've asked them to do. They've done a project, they've done SEL, they can return back, not just to the campus, but they can do rebound on the campus rather than complete their placement. So it's basically playing, I guess you're being creative with the numbers, the seats going back to the campus, making sure it's safe for them to return.
Okay. And then the other thing is, so you said 20 high school, so it's a total of 40.
40 seats.
40 seats, and if you have more middle school, utilize if there's empty seats from the high school, or
Yes,
is
sir.
it?
And that's something Mr. Smith will coordinate. So if high school's got 14 kids only, right, so there's 6 additional seats. So they're not promoting it, but like, hey, if Heritage calls and says, we got 3 students that it's a code red, we gotta send, we're gonna take it. And then so they'll just manage that piece with that.
And what is what's the average fill rate, I guess? Are we at capacity 80% of the school year, 7%?
Mr. Smith can probably give a better.
Well, right now, we're close to 100% at capacity. We also actually have 2 students, 2 slotted for CAS, and in the middle school, since they do have an 8th grade. So a total of 3 from there. So it's a total of 43.
So you can't go over, you have a small.
So for TEA guidelines, you have to have, right now we do 15 per teacher.
I guess where I'm going with this too is I want to get an understanding of, so we have so many seats available, are we being a little bit lenient because we don't have the capacity? And it's continuously building?
No, if it's a mandatory placement, they're going. That's not negotiable. So if they do a behavior that's, because you got discretionary placement, you got mandatory. Mandatory, they're going alternative. So in this case, Mr. Smith will look at, if he's got 10 kids at Heritage already, he'll look at, hey, these two are close to getting out. And then so if it's a, let's just say 20-day placement and they're on day 16, like, hey, they got 4 days to make up, they'll do it there at the camp. But we need to get those kids off their campus, send them over. But we're not gonna allow a student that's an unsafe situation to remain on the campus, by no means. So there's always collaboration between the campus and Mr. Salinas. Because as soon as the event occurs, we want them to call Mr. Salinas to let him know this is what's coming. How can we work to do that?
And then, my actual question that I had was, that I was thinking about was, you kind of alluded to the new things that are happening at the middle school. Can you kind of give us some, what are we doing different now at Heritage to try to bring those numbers? I know that they started doing similar to what Legacy in the beginning, but can you kind of touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, we previously were working on the advisory period, right? But the newest things, I would say, are around the cafeteria and the hallways. And so, like I went Tuesday over there, and so you can see a lot more presence in the hallway where I think it was something where you would see frequently leaders in the hallway, but now it's one of those things where they're deploying in mass and deploying the office staff out. And so we've got it where each person has like a zone, and then they're like who they're responsible for and the results that they work with. So just trying to make it clearer and then have nice responsibilities, and we can see it impact pretty quickly. It's going to take a while to get exactly where we want to go. But in a similar period in the cafeteria, so you know we had adults in the cafeteria, right? But just making it more structured and deliberate, right? So you've got like the main person who's overseeing it kind of in a certain spot, and then like zones of adults as you go around. So like, hey, I'm responsible for this area and make sure it is successful. Just trying to find those hot spots and then kind of cool them off a little bit with more clarity and more
I imagine that with the new junior high, it's going to help, because I know it's overcrowded, and I saw some examples of the overcrowding and how the congestion gets in that hallway. So just imagine that that's a challenge in itself. So hopefully that will kind of alleviate.
So we're blessed with the bonds and the beautiful new school opening up, right? Yeah, it take those numbers down, and we expect to see some things. Well, we know that like we have strong systems, and then we make things operate really tightly that we can put those in conjunction and really multiply the effect. And so I think about like the tradition had some spike in discipline a couple of years ago, and Karen and the team did an amazing job. If you recall that tier 1, the most recent one, they're now the highest campus in the district. And so I'm hoping for a similar plan where we started in the spring a couple years ago, and then we're I believe there were 1,200 students that were a tradition back then. And so as we deploy, this plan is going to take it down, get super tight, then open up with less students, it's going to feel great, and then just kind of keep that trajectory up, see the traditions and achievement growth really took off in conjunction with that work. So just a credit to the leadership team there, and I'm real confident that we'll just similar things.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. I have a couple of exciting updates for you. We're going to start with our cohort 27s. That's our current junior class. You'll see we have some growth with ACT scores coming in. So ECHS is now at 25%. Cassidy is at 22%. And when we jump over to our seniors, cohort 26, you will see ECHS is at 89%. And I want to let you know really quickly how exciting of a moment that is, because that's officially rated an A for CCMR accountability. And so now both of our campuses that's taken a lot of work on our leadership teams. And so I just want to tip our hat and the partnership that we've created between both campuses and CCMR team. So hopefully we'll see you again next month with some more exciting things.
On the first set where it's the juniors, it says increase from 17 to 46.
So we don't have a new comprehensive set of data, but we do have some CFA data. So CFA data is a common formative assessment during math and reading. And if we think about that interim data as everything that was going to be on STAR, the CFA is a part of a unit. So it might just be on author's purpose, or it might just be on information text, or it might just be on linear equations. So it's not a whole picture, it's just a tiny piece of what's happening structurally. So we have some of that. So looking at third grade math, that very last column is the CFA. Notice we didn't color code them because the data set does not represent enough standards to really analyze to say how are kids going, how are they comparing to where they were at in the interim or the math testing and being prepared for STAR. So for this particular assessment, it really only assessed area and perimeter with multiplication and division. And we know that STAR test has 25 more standards that are going to be assessed. But we could see for this particular one where students were sitting, and this was a mid-module unit assessment, which means the unit might have been 20 days long, and this assessment was in the middle of that 20 days. So students had not received all of the instruction on area, perimeter, multiplication, division. It's going to be tested at the state level, but this is where they were at in the middle of that. And you'll see kind of trends like this. Yes?
So can you explain it? I didn't hear you really, but, so I see the first number, the fall interim, or the second, I should say, and I see the number. Why did it start off low, high, and then come back down?
So what you have to think about with these assessments is there's a couple things. Number one, they don't measure the same thing. So you can look at your beginning of the year map, that BOY first column, and look at the middle of the year map, and those are pretty comparable assessments. You can look at the fall interim, and usually you can look at the spring interim and say that those are comparable assessments. But because this year our spring interim was a release test, it is written differently than the state writes an interim test. And so it's testing the same standards, but in a very different way. And so you really can't compare them. You can look at where we're at and try to get all of the assessment information to see, what students are trending strongly across multiple assessments, which ones are trending low across all assessments, and which ones look like a hard cardiogram. But it's really difficult to draw a trend line across 3 different types of assessments, which is what you're seeing in this column here. Does that help?
It does, yeah, because it was like,
It tells you.
didn't look good.
Yeah, if you just look at the numbers, they tell a very different data story than if you have the context behind with what makes up those assessments. On the interim and even the math assessment, the kids don't even get the same questions. So if you're a higher student, like the first 12 questions might be the same, and if you're doing really well, it might take you up to questions 3 and 4 grade levels up. And if you're not doing well, it's gonna take you grade level below. So I could have 2 students, Jonathan could be a 7th grader getting like pre-cal questions, and I'm a 7th grader getting 2nd grade math. And so, because it's adaptive.
Yeah.
And so the interim test does that, the math test does that for everyone, and so it's really tricky to compare it. That's true. The first set's predictive, so it will predict whether or not students will likely be successful on STAR. But like the spring interim was the actual release STAR, so that the measure is just any other. Okay, so looking at 5th grade reading, this is where we stand in our CFA. This was an informational unit, unit 7, so nonfiction unit, lots of cause and effects. This is where we were at on this particular module. Again, there's really nothing to compare it to, but these are the students that are scoring at these for that unit. That went faster than I should have. Did that great math? Did that great reading? 5th grade math. 5th grade math, this particular assessment was early March. And so after this assessment was given, most of the campuses jumped into their STAR prep, so we don't have another data point that was pretty comprehensive enough to bring to. So this assessment was actually pretty early on in March. And this was geometry, area, and perimeter for 5th grade. So again, it's in the middle of the unit where they were falling, and then they finished that unit, and they went straight into their STAR practice, and that's kind of what they're finishing up the last couple of weeks. 5th grade reading, very similar, another informational text. And then this one was mostly inferencing purpose. It's even hard to look at the fifth grade comparison to the third grade because it's actually harder to do well on the third grade test than it is to do the fifth grade test. So there's a lot of comparisons that we're trying to make with the data that you just, but this is where our kiddos were scoring on the scoring in the fifth grade reading on that assessment. Algebra 1 is an interesting one and it's a little bit different. So we talked last month around the interim scoring data. We talked about how much of that test had not been taught yet. So we're concerned with the dip that we see there. There was a large percentage of the test, questions from the release test that were not tested at all. This column on CFA is actually a combination of several assessments since then that's only testing the content that's been taught since that interim test. So they were scoring low on the interim because they had not had a lot of instruction on linear and quadratic functions. And now they have had that instruction and they're scoring really high on those particular standards. So when we saw those dips showing up in that interim release test, now we have data that's showing that the students on those same standards are doing relatively well. So we look at kind of big picture, overall, anything that was not tested during that interim spring test that has now been taught and we have data for, students are doing well. So it's really showing up in third grade, fifth grade, algebra 1, and math particularly. And math is a little different too because your standards don't repeat over and over again like they do in RLA. Reading your standards are recursive and you're kind of testing the same things over and over again in different genres. Math is kind of like you gotta learn this, and then you learn number 2, and then you learn number 3. So if you're tested on 1 through 5, but you've not learned 4 and 5, then you're not going to do well. Now we've got data that shows that we tested on 4 and 5, our students are doing okay. Third grade math is a hot, is a hot spot for us. Looking at delivering effective instruction, so if you remember, this is the data that's collected with campus instructional leadership teams going in and measuring the effectiveness of the teacher in classroom instruction. Last couple months, we were trending in the mid-40s for what percent of those observations were showing as effective. Right now, we're trending at 50% of those observations being effective, or the classroom instruction being effective for the month of March. And we're continuing that in April. So some next steps, some of these things have already happened. Our STAR window is officially open. You might hear the term rock and review. It's kind of a fun way and that we put together some STAR practice activities for kids. We've got Olympics games going on at Legacy. There's like leaderboards in the hallway and there's gold medalists and bronze medalists for how they're doing. You see all kinds of games, hands-on activities, lots of intentionality around reviewing for those most important standards, the heavy hit ones, the ones that we can really boost achievement around. We're pumping up students, motivating, encouraging. A lot of our kiddos have already started testing and are already done, so we're in that window right now where just depending on when campuses are testing, you know, they might still be doing some assessments. A lot of people save math for last to get every single bit of instructional time that we can. And then the other thing that we're really working on is our needs assessment and planning for school year 26-27. So we start looking at, you know, what standards are we historically weak in? How do our resources address those standards? If there's something that we need to tweak, we contact the teachers over the summer so that we can make some adjustments to the curriculum. Do we need to add a resource or change a resource? We're doing all of that work right now in our needs assessment and planning next year.
Yes. Let's go back to the question on that chart. When we look at the interim for the fall, and then he asked about why the numbers fell for the spring. When you take the interim in the fall, does it give you a picture of where the student's at and should he get better in the spring? I didn't quite understand the clarification.
So
of that.
technically, yes. The way we assessed this year is that fall interim test was not the same test as the spring interim test. So it wasn't the same assessment.
Is that what you said?
It's not the same assessment. So you can't measure growth from the fall to the spring interim because that fall interim test basically gave the students 12 questions that were all the same. And then after that, it would take some kiddos higher and some kiddos lower. And then give them different questions and then predict how they're going to do on STAR. The spring interim test was not a predictive test. It was the actual physical test that our students took last year in the spring on STAR. It gives you similar data with how students are doing on certain standards, but it is not the same test. So three of us took both of those tests, all three of our tests could look completely different from each other. Versus that spring interim that was a release test, we would have all taken the exact same test.
I understand that. So in the fall, when you take the interim test, how do you know what to work on to prepare for the spring testing?
So we look at a couple of things. We look at, and we're looking at it through a screening lens, we look at the students that stay, like the students that did well at the end of the year last year that are continuing to do well, so how do we kind of keep them going? We look at students that did really well the year before and then dropped in the fall, and then we go in more specifically student by student to see why is it that they passed maybe last year, but then this year, beginning of the year, they're not. And so that might mean they get additional instruction during the day or tutoring. We also look at it based on what's been taught and what's not been taught. So if there are standards that were on that assessment that haven't been taught yet, and that might be why a student scored low, and they only scored low on the things that haven't been taught yet, we don't really intervene at that point yet because the student hasn't had instruction. But if there's something like adding and subtracting that they've had a lot of instruction on and they're scoring low, then we will immediately put students into like a tier 2 or NTS tutoring group or a daily activity, extra work, extra small instruction with the teacher to kind of close those gaps and get them ready for that next assessment.
One thing that popped up real quick is how do these numbers compare to last year's? Does that give us a little bit of a picture?
So the
of like-
spring interim from last year did. So the spring interim, there's only one situation where a campus last year, I believe, took the release test. And so when we looked at that campus and then where we're at this year, what we noticed is the campus made huge gains from that spring interim to start. And this spring interim scores are higher than where that campus was last year. So that is very positive on the outlook side, but that's only one case with all of our campuses, so it's hard to draw.
Anybody else? Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next item is 7.2 personnel report, Mr. Chascano.
So with your electronic packet, you'll see this month's report, and what you expect to see in there is in there. You've got just a couple of resignations, you've got beginning season retirement. This is the time of year where folks might make that decision, and because they would still qualify for the buyout of the days. So a little bit of activity, and we'll start to see that increase.
Next item is 7.4 bond construction update. Sorry? Oh, sorry, I'll just want to skip on over to the other one. So glad you're good catching up.
So contract renewals, this is the time of year where we now notify all of our contract employees of our intentions for them for next year. These are the contract renewals we're recommending, campus by campus, district. And you'll see some contracts being renewed for folks whose positions have been repurposed. Happy to report that all of those have landed in positions for next year. With the exception of a small handful of retirements, everybody is in a position to move forward next year. All of the folks that are listed here are being stayed until next year. So we're very happy to do this.
Now 7.4 bond construction update.
All right.
All right.
So you do have hard copies, you always do there, if you want to follow along that way. We'll turn it over to Mr. Thomas, there's progress.
Yes, sir, good evening.
Good evening.
going through that last final, stage as well as the landscaping. We'll start seeing some grass put in there, some of the lighting control systems that we need to run. But in the final bit of that before we go into testing here this next month. Good progress on it.
One quick question of Victory. We went out there and, got to see the campus. So one thing that I remember, I was thinking about it, is we actually had that stuff that falls from the sky, the wind stuff, the rain.
Yes, sir.
And it took me back to what I saw there right when we went out that door by the, I don't know if it's the courtyard, if I remember, it's like a courtyard area.
Playground in the back.
Playground area. And the concern I had with one, probably, talking about maybe putting sod. Did we decide on putting sod, or we talking about that crushed limestone?
So in the plan, in that particular area is,
That's going to be dirt, mud, but,
it is a challenge. One of the things that we're doing at these schools now is maintaining irrigation systems around the perimeter of the building so we can control the soils a little bit better. In the past, some of those haven't been maintained over time, so
I just think traffic.
it is gonna be a high traffic.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that is in the documents.
Make sure you have some
For right
maps.
now. Well, that's good. As we progress this model, make some changes, see that reflected in the tenant, we'll see a little more turf in some of those high traffic areas. We just made tweaks and pivots, if you will, to the model, and that's the beautiful thing about reproducing the same thing, right? Like we can take it and go, okay, what would we tweak on this, right? And make those little adjustments that aren't so cost impactful, right? It's not gonna drive the cost out of what our budget is, so we're making those decisions.
Okay, thank you.
Speaking of that, elementary school 10, so we have the final structural pour this morning. Slab is finished up there. Good progress on the erection of the steel. So the building is going up, the cafeteria and the gym. A lot of that detailing right now, and they're moving across the area. On top of that, they took the base roads down so they can access the site if we do happen to get into more of that little bit of rain that we're hopeful for. But we did dodge it here with all of our boards, so we're very fortunate.
Beam sign? We can.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and when you do beam signs, it does bring that stuff out.
I know. No doubt that was over at, Honor.
High school number 2, this morning, I was out there and they did their second, slab pour. Here in 2 weeks, they will do a very large slab pour that will finish out the academic wing. So they're making really good headway on this. This site is so big, it kind of keeps you from seeing how much progress is going on there, because there's a lot of dirt, there's a lot of utilities going in, and a lot of people on site. They're just really spread out for what we're used to seeing, so it's really nice. The plumbers don't work on top of the electrician, they work on different parts of the project and really make good progress.
Those really beautiful pictures there.
It's pretty nice on those morning tours. It's pretty out there, you know, sun come up out of the concrete. Transportation building, we're seeing, what you would see probably the road more visible progress, right? We've gotten out of the storm sewer, some of that dirt turning stuff that doesn't, look as impressive, but needs to be there before we get to this point. We've had slab pour, as well as the steel out there, it's progressed much further than what this picture reflects. Yeah, go down 87, you can see, they're making a good
readily available to them there. Access to the fluids is gonna be a lot easier, much more convenient.
So they're better to know with about a 15-foot aisle down there. And it looks, it doesn't look as large from the road because the site is so large. And it's a lot of parking. So you get all that concrete, flat work and pavement down. It'll make that site look very nice. Do y'all have any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item is 7.5, upcoming events.
Yeah, if you could follow along with me on your April and May calendars, there's also a little bit of activity in June and July I want to preview for you, make sure it's on your calendar. But here in April, things start really ramping up as we get into the final push of this year. But on the 17th tomorrow, just wanted to flag tomorrow and Saturday, the spring show, the annual spring spirit show will be going on. It's a repeat performance, so we make one of them at the pack. Pretty fantastic. 23rd is the JROTC award ceremony, although we also have a handout because we just finalized the official dates of the girls softball team playoffs, and you'll notice that there's also game 1 on Thursday the 23rd, and then game 2 Friday the 24th, and necessary game 3 on Saturday the 25th. All games are in Carrizo Springs High School, visual site. So you have that flyer in the Slings pack. 24th is the Battle of Flowers holiday. And then on the 30th, just wanted to flag for you all, that's our final pathways training for the year. It's Q4. I know Ms. Cameron sent out our information for each of you, and this would round out the majority of the required training for the majority of you. And if there's any additional, you have that information and the options for you. Just keep working with Cameron on that to get that taken care of as needed for you. And then in May, this is where it gets wild. So Saturday, the ACE race, the annual ACE race, was rescheduled to Saturday. So it was competing with the Love Our Schools Day, so it kind of worked out. And it's moved to this Saturday, so if you have an opportunity, it's off Morrison Road at the San Antonio Police Department Academy. And just by way of reminder, that's, obviously our program's been very successful, but the goal there was not just to have decentralized kids on a pathway to advanced manufacturing and engineering careers through that program. It was to help expand activity across school districts. And so our teacher, Mr. Hawthorne, serves as kind of a coordinator of these race from a program development standpoint. So he mentors school districts across the area and helps stand up programs. And so we've got more districts, more cars, more teams competing this year than ever before. So it's become a really pretty outstanding citywide event. So just wanted to flag that for you. Lots of events. If you've got room in your calendar, military enlistment ceremony on the 4th of the PAC, the Superintendent Student of the Month ceremony on the 5th at the PAC, Cassidy Senior Awards at the Cass Cafe on the 6th. The 7th is a special board meeting, which are monthly meeting cadence. This is the work session. We've got quite a bit of activity scheduled, some agenda items that I think are going to offer some really exciting conversation at that. So I really encourage everybody to be there. It's an optional meeting for you guys. There's no action. We've got some big discussion items that are starting to build that agenda. On the 11th, scholarships, a new event at the high school, scholarship reception at the in the cafeteria. And then next regular board meetings on the 14th. And then we start some dedications. So we on the 15th, we're dedicating the CTE facility. So we do a ribbon cutting preceded by dedication. ceremony, on the 20th, the Heritage Award ceremony, and we go sliding in sideways for the last day of school on the 21st, sorry. That's the only early review police day of the year. And then it's graduation time, so Cassidy starts on the 22nd with their graduation ceremony packed. And then the 27th is high school graduation, 9 a.m. at the Alamo. And just wanted to flag for you, Ms. Cameron put a couple of dates on the calendar there in June. We have 2 ribbon cuttings scheduled for June, Thursday the 11th and Thursday the 25th. We're going to do a ribbon cutting at Valor on the 11th and Victory on the 25th of June. So I know you got that information. I just wanted to make sure you had that on the calendar for you. Keep track of your busy schedules. Be happy to answer any questions we have.
Next item on the agenda is consent agenda. Is there anyone who would like to have anything removed from the consent agenda? I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. I have a motion by Mr. Costa, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Santos. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is item 9, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? I have a motion from Mr. Crosby and a second by Mr. Volkey. All those in favor, raise your hand. Meeting is adjourned.
I'll let you go, I gotta get my backpack there.